Hey there folks, Wrel here. Today we'll be doing a fun little commentary talking about what sorts of things PlanetSide 2 can learn from Star Wars Battlefront because they have so much in common. For example, both of them contain massive battles with hundreds of That's a joke. 40 players in a round-based progression system makes it a completely different game, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some takeaways here. Both Battlefront and PlanetSide 2 are extremely immersive experiences. They're a sight to behold, but that's just novelty. Novelty fades, and when it does, what you're left with is how good the gameplay is, how much progression or achievement you can chase, and how frustrated it does or doesn't make you when you play it. Regarding frustration, in Battlefront there is ridiculous, seemingly overpowered cheese everywhere. Grenades have short timers and they give people within a pretty good distance. You can't do much but run from enemy heroes, or you pop a few rounds into them before you eat a lightsaber or a wrist rocket. Vehicles, orbital strikes, more grenades, all sorts of stuff that potentially causes frustration if you're on the receiving end. But you get back into the fight so quickly that unless you're being spawn camped, it's not nearly as rage-inducing as it could be. You can spawn directly on a partner, your spawn locations update to try and keep you within a certain range of your objective, and the downtime is minimal. You die, you wait maybe 3 to 5 seconds, and then respawn, boom, you're back into it. Contrast that with PlanetSide 2, where you have a lot of the same sorts of frustrations regarding being gibbed, but you also have travel time on top of it. You have upwards of 15 seconds between being able to spawn somewhere, then it could be even a minute's walk back to the front lines if there's a poorly placed Sunderer, or a couple of minutes just staring at the map looking for a good fight. In a lot of cases, it's just easier to log off. For PlanetSide 2, alleviating some of these frustrations can be done by reducing spawn and redeploy timers. And the funny thing is, if I remember correctly, the lesson has already been learned on the PS4 version of the game, where spawn timers and redeploy timers are already lower than they are on PC. This does come with its own can of worms, but nothing that couldn't be accommodated for. For example, faster redeploy times means that combat medics may run all the way over to your body just to revive you, just to have you disappear when you respawn. This has happened to me more times than I can count, but if they showed you how close away the nearest medic was, which is a feature that they've talked about wanting to put in time and time again, that would be less of an issue. Then you have quick deploy, which is already horrible in many cases because you don't know if your Sunderer is under attack, you don't know if it's getting farmed, you don't know how far away from you it is, and it leads to a lot of frustration that could possibly be doubled with quicker respawns. What you need is to show the Sunderer's health as well as how far away from you it is. That way, if your previous spawn location died, you could look and say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to spawn 1,000 meters away at some random Sunderer that I've never been to, and then you open the map. Even without quickened spawn timers, these two things need to happen to reduce player frustrations associated with death. There would also be some concerns with faster respawns leading to fighting off just hordes of bad guys, which could make it more difficult to capture a base, but honestly I don't really view this as a big deal. Unless there's a Sunderer sitting on the capture point, most bases' hard spawns are a reasonable distance away from the capture point, meaning that it still takes time to get to where you need to be in order to make an impact on the fight. If anything, I think it would help people push out of camped spawn rooms more easily. You may still want squad spawning to take a little bit longer because a galaxy could potentially rain troops down on you non-stop, which is already an issue in small to medium-sized fights, but outside of that, lower spawn times across the board. Or I guess an alternative to all of this is to just allow us to play chess while we're on the map screen. At least that way you'd have something to do while waiting for your respawn timer to tick down. Also in Battlefront, you have a partner system and you have heroes. These are really cool features for a number of different reasons, but the one that I want to emphasize is that both systems give you a reason to fight alongside someone and follow them around. In Battlefront, a partner is assigned to you at the match start. You see this partner with a yellow line around them, even through walls. You see them with a yellow dot on the minimap. No matter where they are, you always know. Unless you don't have a partner, which is just a bug at the moment, but just knowing where your partner is compels you to fight next to them. At least that's how I feel. Granted, it makes it easier because you get to spawn right on top of them if you die, but just that simple outline around them, allowing you to see them through walls, always knowing where they are, that creates a really cool dynamic that, in my opinion, makes the game a lot more enjoyable. Then you have heroes, which you follow around for a different reason. And that reason is because they're awesome, not just because they're canonical characters who give you the surge of, hey, yeah, wow, this is great, I love Star Wars, but more because they can kill everything around them. They're really, really powerful, but they also have limited amounts of life. So you have this sort of symbiotic relationship. You help protect them, and they help protect you. This is a very powerful feature to have. Now in PlanetSide 2, we have what you'd think would act this way, but it sort of misses the mark. Max units, for example, are expected to be pretty powerful compared to default infantry. But how many times have you pulled a max unit, then charged into battle expecting people to follow you, only to find out that they didn't? You tried to lead the way, and if people did back you up, you wouldn't be eating dirt and waiting for a respawn. Happens to me all the time, and it's frustrating. There are two main reasons for this, aside from being in a squad, which is a completely different story, not exactly what we're talking about, but for one, max units can't defend themselves when enemies are geared appropriately. With the amount of counters in the game right now, like rocket launchers, C4, anti-tank mines, archer, vehicles, a max unit goes down in just a couple of shots without even a second thought. And because the peasants can't trust you to be this big, awesome war machine, they tend to just hide in the back and wait to kind of see what happens. A lot of that also has to do with respawn times that we talked about earlier, because even though death is kind of an important and common occurrence in this game, it's annoying and people would rather not have to deal with it. The other reason is that since max units can be repaired, can't defend themselves against people with the right gear, and just don't want to die because the cost is too high, both in terms of resources and a respawn timer, there's no reason not to just hide in the back and play peekaboo. Your bonus health acts as a buffer, meaning that you can peek out, get some kills, then run away, and it completely contradicts what max units were supposed to be in the first place. So integrating some of those Battlefront principles into PlanetSide 2, you could first allow squads to generate locally, sort of like the World of Warcraft dungeon finder system, but in this case, you'd press insert, then it would queue you for a group in your current region, in your current hex. That way, you'd always have people to follow around, people doing the same thing that you're doing. You could put an outline around the squad leader, one that could be seen through walls. Just like the partner system, this would help encourage random players to stick together. Or maybe you can use a V menu command that says follow me, and then it puts a temporary outline around you for nearby players to see. If you wanted to go the hero direction, you can give certain players auras that affect those nearby, maybe make them stand out a little bit more on the battlefield. If you're in a squad, maybe you can equip the equivalent of a standard that grants bonus experience and improved damage resistance, so long as allies are within however many meters from you. The point here, though, is to help find ways that make the average player feel more coordinated. Squads are squads, you can be in an organized squad, you could be in an outfit, and those things are all swell and dandy, super important for the game at large, but something like 50% of players aren't in squads, aren't in outfits, or aren't organized. So being able to concentrate their efforts could help create a better experience overall. These were just a couple of examples of some of the good things that you can pull from Battlefront, but you can do the same for a lot of games. PlanetSide 2 isn't horrible, but it's far, far, far from perfect, and especially as a game that's 3 years old and the novelty has well worn off, it creates a lot of frustration that could push players away, new or veteran. That being said though, there are plenty of things that PlanetSide 2 should not take away ever from Battlefront, like the progression system, like the monetization model, but that doesn't make it any less capable of sharing a lesson. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and if you've come across some lessons from other games that could be implemented in PlanetSide 2 to hopefully create a more enjoyable experience for everyone, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. Thanks very much, folks. Wrel signing off.
To provide valuable support.
The rebel scum have destroyed our walker.